Today we're doing a Lord of the Rings painting, and I'm really excited because that was a really big piece of my childhood, watching the movies and really just anything kind of nerdy and weird. So I'm really excited to do this piece, and I'm kind of excited to experiment a little bit. But there's one catch. I've only got about 2 days, honestly less than 2 days, to finish it, so let's see how far I can get. We're gonna jump in and I'll tell you about it. Why 2 days? Because I was going to an event wherein Sean Astin himself, the actor who played Samwise Gamgee, would be speaking. I was incredibly excited, and I wasn't sure if there would be a chance for me to meet him afterwards, but if there was, I really wanted him to know how much of an impact he's had on people through his art. So, either giving him the painting or getting him to sign it, I would have been happy either way. So I started my painting with a rough sketch, and I do mean rough, but it's of that moment in the end of the trilogy where Sam and Frodo are on the mountain, and Frodo doesn't think he can go on. And I decided to paint not the moment of Sam carrying him, but the moment before when Sam decides to carry Frodo. I just think it's so powerful, that moment of overcoming your doubts and fears in your mind. But since I was recording with my phone, I couldn't look at my actual reference photo of the moment on my phone. So a lot of the painting was just my interpretation of that moment and what was already in my brain. And I did a lot of playing around with color that I normally wouldn't. For instance, I normally use very vibrant colors and shade skin with colors like purple. But this time, I went for desaturated, for black. I wanted it to feel dirty and frightening and grim. And I'm glad I did make those scary choices because I think it's more powerful to see the fight and the blood and dirt that they've already fought through in this painting. But just that took over half of my allotted time before I had to have a completed, dry painting. So it's getting pretty late, and I think I'm at a stopping point for tonight, which I'm feeling okay about. Because I'm not unhappy with where the painting is right now. I think it's kind of nice, to be honest. Although it's a little weird because I did experiment a lot with the style and the lighting, and I don't know, it's always a little scary to do something new, but I'm glad I tried. I'm glad I experimented. But I've got a long way yet to go, and I'm gonna really have to hustle tomorrow. So here's to seeing you bright and early tomorrow. Bye. All right, welcome to day 2 of my Lord of the Rings painting. So I'm really excited because while we have really limited time and I have to get it done before like 5 tonight, we're up early, we're prepared, I'm almost ready for the day. So I'm getting everything out of the way. I'm even boiling some tea, you know? We're gonna get this done. So let's jump in to day 2 of painting. Day 2 honestly went so fast, and I got it done just in time to run away into the night with my painting. So let me tell you about the event. My partner and I walked to the venue, a nice little hotel, and I was so nervous because it was hitting me that normal people would make a very complimentary rendering of the actor, not a bloody, dirty, cartoonish rendition of a moment from one of their films. But I wasn't put on this earth to be normal, so I just pushed on. It was a fundraising event wherein we were all given a meal and listened to people talk, largely on the topic of faith. There were a lot of great speakers, singers, and the like leading up to Sean, but you could really feel the excitement in the air for his speech specifically. So, when his video intro rolled with clips of his most famous acting moments, the room was practically vibrating with excitement, and he ran on stage with this great energy. He didn't give a traditional speech so much as rambled on different topics, and it was really fun. It was like catching up with an old friend. And while I don't have a recording and don't intend to tell you everything he said, let me tell you some of my favorite moments to the best of my recollection. He talked about playing a radical Christian extremist on Law and Order early on in the speech, and how it was really important to him not just to show Christianity in a purely positive way, how important that is to his faith, to acknowledge that there are bad actors within spiritual circles. And that really touched me. It's something I grapple with a lot when I write scripts, because sometimes other people with similar beliefs as me get upset when I show Christians as villainous or doing something wrong in my own writing. So it was fascinating listening to someone actually talk about that, where I didn't feel like I was being accused of being in the wrong for showing Christians not being the best. He also talked about the responsibility of playing real-life people, like a role he played of a pastor trying to help kids come together during the civil rights movement when the impacts of segregation, of hatred, were so heavy in the air. At one point, he also talked about courage, about being brave, and that was something I really needed to hear. He also talked about being on a council for peace when Bush was in office, and this story held my attention so much, because he talked about advocating for peace, and how the president got angry when he did so. The president then said, "I get on my knees and pray every day for peace." And Sean said, "I don't think God wants you to pray about it. I think he wants you to make it." That was just so incredible, especially because we had multiple politicians in the room who paid to be right up front. And in one of his funniest moments, he talked about seeing an icon in a taxi driver's window, and he asked him about his faith. The man told him he also had an altar at home, and Sean asked, "Which God?" And the man said, "All of them." And then Sean said, "That's one big-ass altar." It was just so much fun. I could have listened to him talk for hours, days. My table was having a great time, laughing, engaged, but then it was time for him to run away, and at the door he was pretty close to us, so while his security opened it, he waved at our table, so that was pretty cool too. Now, in that moment where he's about to go out the door, my fiance realized there would be no meeting this man, and while I just accepted it, he desperately wanted to make sure he saw my painting. So my fiance grabbed it and tried to put it in the air for Sean to see before he left, but he was not quite fast enough. So, as the lights came on and the event ended, he grabbed it and started rushing through the halls. Sean was gone by then. They were very fast. But my partner went up to the concierge desk and asked if Sean was staying at the hotel, which we knew he was because Sean Astin told us he was, and what room he was in during the speech. It was wild. But anyways, luckily the man at the desk did his job and denied it, but he did say, and I quote, "If someone by that name happens to be here, we'll send it up to their room." And it was really sweet, so they let me write a little note to send with it. The rest of the night was spent with friends editing the funniest pictures of Sean Astin into our group photos, and a day or two later, my partner and I swung by the hotel to see if the painting was left behind. It wasn't. So as far as I'm aware, this painting made it where it belongs. But here I am, at the end of the painting process, with no idea just how great of a night it would be. I finished it. I know, it's kind of upside down right now. But, you know, it's gotta dry since I painted the edges and all. But, you know, let me show you some shots. But there you have it, the only shots I have of this painting. I had so much fun, and I have every intention of getting into more shenanigans in the future. So if you want to see other weird projects and paintings I've got in store, jump on my mailing list, or subscribe, that'd be nice. But I appreciate you one and all, and have a fantastic night.